Shalom, shalom, everyone. This is Rabbi Yehuda once again coming at you with my series on movies and entertainment. This is part 3, and I'm going to be dealing with violence and murder. We, as Torah observant believers and Christians, it should be plain and obvious to recall one of the 10 Commandments where it says, "Thou shalt not kill," which "thou shalt not kill" is specifically speaking about premeditative murder, not war-type killing or self-defense type killing. These forms of killing are acceptable. They're not to be sought out, and it should be a last resort. But if you have to defend yourself or to protect your life or the life of your family, and you have to kill in the process, whether it's in a wartime situation or what have you, this is not deemed as killing as "thou shalt not kill." A better translation is "thou shalt not murder." Now, we see such things all the time, a lot of times in movies. There's a statistic out there. I'm not sure exactly how it goes or what the numbers are, but it goes something like this: that by the age of 6 or 8, a typical Western child will have witnessed an X amount of murders through television alone, and so it's pretty shocking. And I don't think that it's acceptable for pre-bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah children to witness shows that have violence and murder in them. Back in the day, way back in the 1930s and 40s, when there were action movies and action shows, mystery movies, and even horror movies, there was murder and there was violence as part of the storyline as far as the plot line goes. But yet this violence was implicated. It wasn't visually seen. You may have seen a silhouette of somebody being stabbed or strangled, or you may have seen or heard off camera shouts and screams or a gunshot, so you knew what happened. You knew what was going on, but you didn't literally see it. Nowadays, it's no hold barred, and you see all the guts, blood, and gore, especially in the war movies, Vietnam movies, and horror movies, and things like that. Such violence, it desensitizes one to human suffering. It desensitizes one where viewing such things is not shocking anymore. Seeing somebody shot in the head, or somebody being blown up, or guts and blood and gore, it makes people look like objects, and it doesn't deem people as people. Same as sexuality, where you see prostitutes and sexuality and nudity in movies. It makes humanity, it makes humans objects and tools to be manipulated and played with, and it totally devoids the situation of humanity and of sympathy and of suffering, and it takes out the human element and makes people things instead of souls. And this is the same thing in regarding violence. So if there's a way that you could edit your viewing in regards to certain action movies and movies of this nature, I highly recommend it. Like I said before, I definitely do not recommend children that are not bar or bat mitzvah age to view such things. Now, in the course of a good story, you're always going to have you're always going to have violence. You're always going to have some fatalities. It depends on how they're played out and how they are addressed in movies, in my opinion, which makes them right or wrong or acceptable. I do not like horror movies because a lot of the horror movies, such as the Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Hellraiser, Candyman, and all these kind of things, it's just senseless violence, senseless blood and gore. There's no justification. It's a sick gratification of violence. It's just to feed that fallen nature that wants us to see a train wreck, wants us to see blood and guts and gore. So these movies, I don't personally watch, and I would advise that nobody watch. I think they're senseless and idiotic. But sometimes you have violence in regards with monsters or aliens. We know that monsters and aliens are fictitious, and therefore they are not real. They do not have a soul. When you watch them, you know that it's totally fiction. And so to see an alien blow up or an alien get shot, I don't have such a big deal with, because it's fantasy. It's totally fantasy. And usually, such violence whether it be fantasy violence in fantasy movies or sci-fi, or whether it be action movies such as a war movie, or something of this nature, when the violence is good versus evil, when the violence, and I hate to use this word because it'll kind of bring the wrong connotation, which I don't want it to bring, but when the violence is justifiable, in other words, it's a good versus evil, it's a kill or be killed, it's the kind of killing that I was talking about when thou shalt not murder, when it's in wartime, when it's in self-defense, when it's protecting or preserving another life, when it's killing the bad guy so the bad guy can't kill anybody else. These types of violence and murder in such story and plot lines are a lot of times necessary to tell a story, especially if it's a story of survival, a story of war, a story of justice, an action movie, an action story. So those kind of violence and killing, I don't have such a problem with, because it's a kill or be killed. It doesn't fall into the category of thou shalt not murder. It's the goal of such violence, the goal of such murder is for self-preservation or for justice, or to preserve or protect the lives of the innocent, and to stop the bad guy when there's no other way to stop a bad guy. I wouldn't recommend having a regular visual and auditory diet of such movies and such things, but such superhero movies like Batman, and movies like Lord of the Rings, you're going to have this classic clash between good versus evil, and there's going to be fatalities. That's just part of the storyline. And it disappoints me that the violence now is so graphic, because it desensitizes. If a movie could be edited, a lot of times that movies are edited for TV, a lot of the blood and guts and gore have been edited, and if you could watch it on TV, and if you can kind of hold off on the DVD, or if you know how you can program a certain device or the V-chip to filter out these things, I highly recommend you do so. But basically that is my take in regarding violence and murder as far as movies and entertainment go. I hope I made myself clear, and hope I've spelled it out for you in the best way possible. I feel like I've rambled, and I feel like I've kind of danced around the issue, but I've tried to tackle it head on and address it to the very best of my ability, and I hope people understand where I'm coming from in this regards. Like I said, to recap, blood, guts, and gore, horror, killing spree type violence desensitizes, and we shouldn't watch it. But justifiable violence in the battle of good versus evil, and preserving a life or protecting the innocent, or in a war type of movie situation, or it's a kind of a kill or be killed, or killing is the only way to stop the bad guy. I don't have such a problem with movies of that nature as I do with horror movies, or movies that are totally senseless and the violence is unjustifiable. There's a lot of movies, such as horror movies that I've mentioned before, but also such senseless violence as found in the movie Sin City, or the movie, a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. They're just senseless, random acts of blood, guts, and gore violence that feed on our nature that wants to see a train wreck. These should be banned, in my opinion, in a believer's life, and shouldn't be viewed. But movies that are have justifiable violence, where the end result is justice, the end result is the salvation of the innocent and the protecting of truth and justice, and where the bad guy is stopped and evil is squashed. And sometimes the only way to go about that is through war, through violence, and through killing. And so that's kind of my take on it. Like I said, I feel like I've rambled, feel like I haven't really said everything I wanted to, but hopefully I came across. And catch us next time, where the next issue I'm going to tackle is language. Shalom and Shavuot Tov.